Malcontent's Jennifer is bringing us an update on this story tonight. This is the individual that was suicidal and was shot by Seattle police and killed. All of it caught on video that was shared by the Seattle Police Department that we aired on this show. That happened, I believe, 2 Tuesdays ago tomorrow. Jennifer, why don't you share with us what you have learned?
Okay, so last week actually they ID'd the man that was shot by SPD on the waterfront as Derek Hayden. He was 44 and a graduate student at Seattle University. Hayden, of course, was shot in February in the midst of a mental health crisis by SPD near the waterfront. It was the second fatal shooting following the shooting of Gregory Taylor, who was shot by SPD as well. And let's not forget Taylor's 23-year-old victim. What is her first name, David? I don't want to mispronounce it. Is it Anais Valencia, who was shot by Taylor and died at the scene? So Hayden's death, however, demonstrates an increased need for both police training to deal with people in the throes of mental health crisis and or a need for mental health professionals to assist on calls such as these. It also highlights the ongoing and exacerbated mental health crisis that has impacted many people during sustained periods of isolation during COVID and a need for more accessible and affordable mental health care resources. Timothy Wheeler, who knew Hayden, and Hayden lived in an RV in his property, had this to say about him. Derek was, quote, a sympathetic person who identified strongly with poor and homeless people like himself. He helped organize a plant nursery in Port Angeles that sold trees and flowers to raise money for homeless people. He moved to Seattle 2 or 3 years ago. Last summer, he telephoned me out of the blue to tell me how well things were for him. He had found a comfortable, affordable apartment in Seattle, a minor miracle. He had a job as a computer programmer and was earning a decent living. He sounded completely upbeat and happy, and now he is dead. So Derek Hayden, 44 years old, shot by SPD during a mental health crisis and was a graduate student at a local university.
Yeah, it paints an interesting picture, right? As we saw by some of the Chud comments, not necessarily in our universe, but out in other areas, there was a ton of assumptions. He's homeless. He's this, and it's just like all of it is just so flipping gross. It's so gross.
You're not the same.
Absolutely.
I'm an American.
And it sounds like maybe he had struggled with some mental health issues in the past. But again, this just reinforces the need for affordable and accessible mental health care, and also for the SPD to have some kind of maybe, training in how to deal with these kind of events, or somebody on call who can help kind of defuse these situations before they use lethal force.
So Port of Seattle, according to this report, are the ones that use less lethal because, of course, one of the things when we played the video on this show, it was about 14 seconds from door open to gunfire when the lead police cruiser arrived there almost simultaneously with other officers. But certainly the officers that discharged their weapons first, it was all of just 14 seconds. They said they used 40 millimeter less lethal rounds to, no effect. One of the things that just jumps out to me, Jennifer, on that is, when it came to protesters, they used those less lethal rounds to literally take protester heads off and blind them and hit them in the throat. And here it just seems like, oh, okay, we're going to skip them on the ground at their knees. The selective policing is just stunning. Because I just find, I've also, the other possibility here, of course, it was fired at a range where it was outside of being effective. Because that's the other thing, right? There is a range that you're supposed to fire in, a minimum and a maximum range. If you fire in closer than that, you can literally kill somebody. That's why they're called less lethal, not non-lethal. And if you fire too far out, it's just going to be, as I've experienced, like, damn, it kind of feels like a hornet sting, I guess is probably a good way to describe it. Enough to get your attention, not enough to slow you down.
Yeah. So sad news. Sounded like he was doing well, according to someone who knew him very well. So, yeah.
This is what we mean when we say defund. When we say defund, What we mean is you have resource officers, and those are the kind of officers that show up to an incident like this. And Jennifer, as we called out, Tulsa, Oklahoma, mentally ill, homeless person there, 60 years old. Police shot him, and that officer is in jail right now, facing first-degree manslaughter charges. So Oklahoma is more woke than the state of Washington, apparently. Take all the time you want to unpack that one, Malcontents.
Yeah.
Jennifer, we're going to do a brief pause for the cause. Thank you for giving us that update, and we'll go to the next section.
Okay.
Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you.